For over a decade, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 baffled the world. Then, after 11 years, a scientist uncovered something inside the wreckage that no one expected. What did he find? And how does this discovery change everything we thought we knew about the flight? Stay with us because what he revealed could rewrite history and finally uncover the secrets hidden beneath the ocean. The night of March 8, 2014 began like any other for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Inside the cockpit, Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah and First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid prepared for a routine red-eye flight to Beijing. The Boeing 777 was fully fueled, its systems checked, and its passengers settling into the dimmed cabin as the plane lifted gracefully into the humid Malaysian sky. Nothing hinted at the chaos that would soon engulf the world's attention. At 1:19 a.m., air traffic control received the last calm transmission from the cockpit, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Seconds later, the aircraft's transponder, the device that broadcasts its identity and altitude, went dark. Civilian radar lost it entirely. But on military radar, a ghost image appeared, veering sharply west over the Malay Peninsula before curving toward the Andaman Sea. The move was deliberate, smooth, and controlled, not a flailing response to technical failure. Families awoke to horrifying confusion at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Arrival screens still showed expected 6:30 a.m. long after the flight's window had passed. Relatives crowded the terminal, clutching phones, praying for updates that never came. Airline officials, initially hesitant to declare disaster, could only admit that they had lost contact. In a world where aircraft could be tracked across oceans, the idea that one could simply disappear seemed unthinkable. Within hours, multiple nations mobilized. The South China Sea, initially thought to be the crash zone, was combed by dozens of ships and aircraft. When radar data revealed the plane had instead turned west, search efforts had to be entirely restructured. The delay cost precious time, and with every passing hour, the trail grew colder. What should have been a clear sequence of electronic footprints had been wiped away by a single switch. Behind closed doors, investigators began dissecting the crew's last actions. Captain Zahari, a veteran with over 18,000 flight hours, was known as calm and methodical. His co-pilot, Farik, was just weeks from certification to captain his own aircraft. Nothing in their record suggested instability. Yet in Zahari's home, police found a deleted flight simulator route eerily similar to the suspected diversion path. Whether this indicated planning or coincidence became one of the case's most divisive debates. Meanwhile, satellite data provided faint clues. British firm Inmarsat discovered that MH370 had continued handshaking with its satellites for nearly 7 more hours after disappearing from radar. These electronic whispers suggested the aircraft flew deep into the southern Indian Ocean, far from any landmass or emergency landing site. The last signal, faint and final, came from an empty stretch of sea known ominously as the Seventh Arc. As theories spread, they grew darker. Some believed it was a controlled hijacking. Others proposed sudden depressurization or onboard fire. A few whispered of state secrets, suggesting the plane carried sensitive cargo or passengers who were never meant to arrive in Beijing. Each theory collided with the same confounding fact: no distress signal was ever sent and no wreckage was found. 11 years later, MH370 remains aviation's greatest enigma. For every answer science offered, a new question emerged from the void. The flight had not only vanished from radar, it had vanished from logic itself. The sky that night held its secrets close, and the ocean, silent and vast, seemed determined to keep them buried. Could the answers lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting for someone willing to look deeper? Stay with us as the mystery deepens. When the coordinates from Inmarsat's satellite data pointed toward the southern Indian Ocean, investigators faced a grim realization. The new search area was unlike any other in aviation history, a remote, storm-battered region thousands of miles from civilization. Even for modern technology, this was a no-man's land. The first fleets of ships and aircraft sent to the coordinates encountered 40-foot waves, erratic winds, and an ocean floor deeper than Everest is tall. Yet beneath that dark expanse, the world-believed answers waited. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, led the charge. Using state-of-the-art sonar mapping, autonomous underwater vehicles were deployed to scan the seabed. Each mission lasted days, with robotic sensors painting grainy images of underwater ridges and trenches. The scans revealed haunting shapes, metallic echoes, ghostly silhouettes that would, one after another, turn out to be natural formations. Every false lead drained resources, time, and hope. The cost soon surpassed $150 million, making it the most expensive search in aviation history. For nearly 3 years, search vessels scoured 120,000 square kilometers of seabed without recovering a single piece of wreckage. Then, in July 2015, a breakthrough came. A beachcomber on Réunion Island stumbled upon a barnacle-encrusted flaperon. Its serial number confirmed it belonged to MH370, the first physical proof that the aircraft had indeed met its fate. The discovery electrified the investigation. Soon, fragments began appearing along Africa's eastern coast, wing panels, cabin pieces, even interior parts from passenger compartments. Each fragment bore scars of impact and prolonged exposure to salt water. Yet something about the wreckage disturbed scientists. The pattern of breakage was inconsistent with typical high-speed ocean impacts. Some pieces looked twisted, as if torn by internal pressure rather than external force. Marine biologists analyzing barnacle growth noted timelines suggesting the debris had floated freely for years before washing ashore, implying a long, unbroken drift rather than a crash that immediately fragmented the plane. Families of victims clung to these fragments as sacred relics. Memorials were built, candles lit, and prayers offered along coastlines where the ocean had finally spoken. But for many, closure remained out of reach. The debris revealed location, but not cause. Every fragment answered one question and raised 10 more. As time stretched on, official interest waned. By 2018, most governments had quietly stepped back, declaring the disappearance an accident with unknown causes. Search vessels were recalled, budgets slashed, and the ocean once again fell silent. But amid that silence, a handful of independent researchers refused to give up. Among them was an American adventurer named Blaine Gibson, whose relentless determination would soon reignite the world's fascination with the missing flight. While governments closed their files and the media moved on, one man refused to let MH370 fade into history. Blaine Gibson, a former lawyer turned independent adventurer, was haunted by the mystery. He wasn't related to anyone on board, nor funded by any authority. What drove him was conviction. He believed that if the wreckage was scattered, it could still speak piece by piece through the debris that washed ashore. His search began on the beaches of Mozambique, a stretch often overlooked by official investigators. Locals told tales of strange metal fragments found after storms. With a backpack, GPS, and sheer determination, Gibson combed the sands for hours. It was there that he found his first clue, a composite piece with markings eerily similar to those of the missing Boeing 777. It was small, unassuming, yet unmistakable. The discovery reignited hope. Gibson expanded his search to Madagascar, Mauritius, and the Comoros Islands, following oceanic drift models. The debris he uncovered aligned perfectly with predicted current paths from the suspected crash site. These weren't random finds, they were breadcrumbs left across the sea. Some pieces bore scorch marks or outward stress fractures, signs that unsettled aviation experts. Despite skepticism and even threats from conspiracy theorists, Gibson persisted. His findings eventually attracted a German aerospace engineer named Richard Godfrey, whose expertise would transform the search from sea to sky. When Blaine Gibson met Richard Godfrey, two halves of the same puzzle finally connected. Gibson had the fragments, the tangible remains of MH370 scattered by the sea. Godfrey had the invisible trail hidden in the airwaves. Godfrey's theory revolved around the Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, WSPR, a network, a global radio system that detects disturbances as waves bounce between transmitters. He realized that if MH370 had flown through certain regions, it would have left subtle disruptions, digital echoes recorded unknowingly by radio amateurs around the world. Using years of archived data, Godfrey reconstructed the aircraft's path minute by minute. His model showed the plane flying south across the Indian Ocean before executing a controlled descent near the Kerguelen Plateau, a desolate underwater ridge. When he compared this route with Gibson's debris locations, the alignment was uncanny. Two independent forms of evidence, data and debris, told the same story. If accurate, it meant MH370 had not spiraled out of control but had been guided deliberately to its end. Among all the fragments found, one piece stood apart, part of the aircraft's landing gear trunnion door, discovered off Madagascar. Upon inspection, engineers realized the metal was bent outward, as if an explosive force had burst from within. Even more chilling, the landing gear appeared to have been deployed, something no pilot would do during a water landing unless the intent was destruction, not survival. Forensic simulations confirmed violent internal stress consistent with deliberate action. It suggested that whoever controlled the plane ensured it would break apart upon impact, leaving no survivors and little floating wreckage. When investigators later reviewed MH370's satellite data, they discovered an encrypted ping sequence, a signal manually sent hours after radar contact was lost. It didn't match any emergency protocol. Some experts believed it encoded coordinates or a final message from the cockpit. Further analysis revealed one flaperon had detached mid, implying a high-altitude disintegration, contradicting official claims of a controlled descent. By 2025, improved satellite analytics detected a metallic anomaly deep beneath the ocean floor near the signal's timestamp. Plans for a new expedition were announced. Still, the mystery endures. Was the final ping a cry for help, a coded farewell, or a deliberate deception? The scientist who decoded it reportedly wept, whispering that someone wanted to be found. What do you think is the most shocking part of this discovery, the hidden damage pointing to deliberate action, the clues left behind in remote debris, or the possibility that the plane's final moments were planned?